The serious virus likely infects users of mobile devices that run the Android operating system, or their personal identifiable information has been compromised and they don't even know it. Basically, the Android operating system is the most unsafe operating system in the sea of operating systems.
I said what I said!
Yeah, I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. But before you share a few choice words and gestures with me, allow me the opportunity to explain, with facts, how I came to this conclusion. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of
Wow, how'd you code that?
One can never be completely secure on a mobile device, or any device for that matter, and regardless of which platform you use, you can still be vulnerable to threats. In a study conducted by the Synopsys Cybersecurity Research Center, 3,000 popular Android applications were assessed to determine the state of mobile app security. The study targeted the most downloaded and highest grossing apps across 18 categories, many of which have seen explosive growth during the pandemic. The research focused on three core areas of mobile app security: vulnerabilities, information leakage, and mobile device permissions. Listen to Tim Mackey, Principal Security Strategist at the Synopsys Cybersecurity Research Center, describe what I believe is the primary reason why the Android operating system is the unsafest in the industry.
One of the key things to recognize is that when a developer is creating an application, they're going to list out the core dependencies that they have. And those core dependencies could ultimately become point-in-time decisions. I'm going to include this version of this library in order to perform task X, whatever task X might be. That decision, if it's not revisited, is something where you can end up with these unpatched vulnerabilities that could be quite old. The problem is that unlike commercial software, which has the relationship where it knows who the person who's using it and procuring it is, and can thus push updates out, it's the responsibility of whoever downloaded the open source library in the first place to keep it up to date. And if they're not doing it because they're not aware of how to do that, or they believe that it's effectively, quote, someone else's problem, you can end up in a situation where not only is it 2 years old, but it could be significantly old, even though it effectively just works and the application has no behavioral changes or issues associated.
And therein lies the single most fundamental problem with open source software. It puts the onus on the developers, or software vendor, to ensure their software is always free of vulnerabilities, even after the software reaches the consumer. So you end up with potentially unpatched vulnerabilities, packaged within mobile application software, residing on millions of unsuspecting consumer devices.
Wait, that sounds like that Log4Shell thing that happened in December 2021.
That's correct. The Log4Shell vulnerability had an attack surface that extended beyond mobile devices. But the threat was introduced through open source software, resulting in a rush to apply the Log4j patch as quickly as possible. The results from the Synopsys study were alarming. Of the 3,335 applications scanned, 2,115, or 63%, contained vulnerable components, with an average of 39 vulnerabilities per vulnerable app. The most dramatic findings resulted from an analysis of financial and banking applications. Of the 107 banking applications scanned, 94 contained a vulnerability. That's 88%, well above the average of 63%, with 5,179 vulnerabilities identified. The average application had 55 vulnerabilities. Financial applications require some of the most personally sensitive data, making these numbers alarming due to the potential impact of a security breach. Gaming applications had similar results. Top grossing and free games contained 10,404 and 9,829 vulnerabilities of the respective 257 and 288 applications scanned. That translates to 94% of top grossing games and 96% of top free games containing vulnerabilities. With gaming's leap in popularity during the pandemic, and especially given the younger and more trusting gaming audience, this finding raises concerns regarding children's relative level of risk using online applications, and what personal data could be exposed in the event of a breach.
Wow, that was grim. What can developers and consumers do to mitigate this risk?
Open source software, unlike commercial software, relies on the consumer to pull patches rather than have them pushed to them. Therefore, consumers are at the mercy of the software developer or vendor to receive updates. I strongly advise turning on automatic updates in your device settings to ensure timely receipt of application updates. Use the following instructions to update any or all of your installed applications manually. As a software developer, the ability to pinpoint vulnerabilities in open source software requires knowing the affected component is there. A software bill of materials, a list of ingredients that make up software components, should be used to build an inventory of elements that comprise your application. Finally, applying the patches and pushing the updates to your consumers must be expedient. One reason malware is prevalent on Android devices is due to the time it takes developers and consumers to update their systems and devices. Apple's iOS is considered a closed source system, hence the reason why none of the issues discussed in this video are an issue for iPhone owners. What do you think of the Synopsys report? Which device do you prefer in terms of security? Thank you for watching this video. Thank you to all my subscribers for your continued support. And a huge thanks to my new subscribers. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of
Wow. How'd you code that?